How can women truly be in their power, especially in still a very male-dominated world? I am Cindy Ashton, and with me today is fellow body language expert, the amazing Alison Henderson. Hello, Alison.
Hello, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for being with me on this. So today we are going to look at the recent interview with VP Harris on the Today Show, and we're going to pull out some clips and really be able to dissect where she could really grow in her presentation style and in her power. Now, before we go in, we do need to have a very honest conversation. Please do not get upset with us if you are on one side of the fence or the other. This is not political commentary. I repeat, this is not political commentary. This commentary would be exactly the same, regardless of political race or anything. Anything you want to add to that?
There are ways men perceive things and the way women perceive things and the way men behave and the way women behave that we just need to be aware of, because it is kind of an instant negative perception sometimes.
Absolutely. So let's look at the first clip and we will come back with our analysis.
Why aren't we doing better in the fight against COVID?
So let me start with saying that people are rightly frustrated with where we are. We're frustrated. We're all frustrated. But I think it's a mistake, and it would be a mistake to suggest that we've not seen great progress.
The very first tip I would give is to keep your eye on your interviewer rather than looking down. Before you answer the question, it just breaks that power between you and breaks the energy between you and your interviewer. So I wouldn't want her to look down as if the answer is somewhere off to her right. The second thing is that most people would probably bring up is that she touches her nose. She kind of gives that little scratch, and then she touches her hair. This is very common for women, and in general, male or female, for interviews, particularly television interviews, we don't want to be touching our face because there's so much talk out there about what these things mean. And one of the things that is often brought up is that it is a sign of deception of some sort. And without seeing the rest of her body language, there's no way that you could really make that assessment. But just by doing that, for women, we have these subconscious habits where we tuck our hair, or if it's long enough, Cindy and I don't have that problem, the whole head toss thing, right? One reason to keep your hair short is that you don't tend to touch it. And bobby pins are your best friends, ladies, if your hair is long or if you have the bang that comes all the way down. Because the minute we touch our hair, we're just reminding men that we're female, that we're the woman in the room, because we're touching our hair. So we don't want to do that.
That is so on point, Alison. And I'm really glad that you pointed that out, that touching your hair may not actually mean that you're lying, and that it could be for other reasons. The other piece in this is that before she even started speaking, she was pursing her lips and she had closed her throat. And what happened is when she went to speak, she ended up with what we call is a vocal fry. So it's when your voice goes, ha, ha. So when she said the word frustrated, she was like, frustrated. Okay, that's a little bit exaggerated. But if you listen to that whole section again, you'll hear that she's grating on the vocal cords. And it is because she was pursed and she was already in a defense mode before she started, and it closed up the throat. Now, in general, the vocal fry is especially a huge problem for women. It really shows a loss of power. So let's say I'm speaking right now, and I'm speaking and I'm speaking, and suddenly I go into this vocal fry, and it completely diminishes your power. So if we were coaching her, we would definitely help her to, even when she's feeling like she's got to tense up, just to relax and open the throat so that she does come across as the powerhouse woman that she is. Okay, let's look at the next clip.
Now we have a vaccine, which has proved to be effective, and boosters.
One of the things you want to notice with anybody who is speaking is how alive is their eyes. When somebody's eyes are alive, they're engaged. Now, when she said vaccines and boosters, you could see that she was more relaxed and that she was more engaged and that her eyes were actually warmer. And this is really important because a lot of the times, especially in politics and with global leaders, they are told to pose and gesture and do all these things, and it actually disconnects them from themselves. But with her, when she was saying that, you could see it in her eyes that it was really coming from a place of truth because there was so much warmth and she was more in her body. Did you have anything to add to that, Alison?
I think that really covers it when you say she was more in her body. When you're committed to what you were saying, it comes through in an intention. And what I always say, it connects to your core. So coming up, we're going to see where there's a disconnect there. And it'll be very clear between these moments where she is more connected and really feels what she's saying and maybe isn't so much talking points that she was given versus her true conviction. And when it's her true convictions, you can really tell.
Before we go into all that, where can people find you?
You can find me at www.movingimageconsulting.com.
Awesome. And you can find me at speakfromyourpower.com. All right, let's see the next clip.
Well, the CDC is going to be providing us with those guidelines.
But what's taking so long?
Well, the CDC is making their decisions. I don't make the CDC's decisions. But what I will say is what has been clear about the masks is you want to wear a tight-fitting mask. That is clear. And
in this case, her interviewer came at her aggressively. And what you see is a slight shift back with her body language, and it's a protective move. And now she didn't cross her arms, which would really show that she was protecting herself. But because he came at her aggressively, there was a bit of a shift back with her body language. And then you'll notice, once again, the vocal fry comes in. So whenever you hear that vocal fry, what that is really saying is that there is some kind of a loss of power. So you can really hear it on well the CDC is. Also notice on that quick turnaround where you look at Craig and he tilts his head and really shifts his eyes in disapproval, once again, subconsciously attacking her. But if you actually notice when she's talking about the masks, you're actually seeing from the beginning of that clip to the end of the clip, how she's really getting her power back and how she's speaking much more from a place of power and not recoiling and not doing the vocal frying.
Right. And you see her body language, it's very clear. It's coming, she's supporting her words by showing us the clarity in her gesture that she's supporting her vocal language as well there.
All right, let's see the next clip.
Is it time?
it is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day. Every day it is time for us to agree that there are things and tools that are available to us to slow this thing down.
One thing to notice if you've been given the words to say, particularly for executives that may be handed, this is what we want you to say to the board, or this interview is coming up and these are your talking points, take a moment as a leader to internalize it and change the wording around to make it yours. And even if you rewrite it and send it back for approval, you may have to do that depending on where you're being seen. You might not be able to go rogue in that way, but you need to find a way to internalize it and make it yours. Otherwise, your body language will be hollow and puppet-like in general. Because if you say something that you've been told to say, and what you'll see in Vice President Harris at times when you can tell it's talking points, she tends to do this karate chop move that is kind of hollow. In general, you would think this is a very strong, but you see the difference? This is a strong, I'm convicted here. So if she adds that weight and that connection to her core, then it's really her speaking. If it's just this, and there's no kind of connection and it looks like a puppet or a robot, that's where it's talking points because it's not connected. And this is what happens to a lot of people, particularly when they're going on camera for the first time and they get really nervous and they're trying to keep all their talking points up here. Those words haven't fallen down into the body. And I know this is what a lot of work that you do, so you with getting people into their bodies before they speak, because that is so crucial. And you'll notice a difference coming up where Vice President Harris is connected to her words and she gestures out away from the body, which is fantastic. Most people keep way, and I call them penguin arms because they keep their elbows attached and they look like little penguins. But she comes out of herself when she is convicted, and it's connected. So you'll see a sharp contrast between this one and one of the clips coming up.